Have you ever opened your mailbox and felt your stomach twist the moment you saw a thick envelope marked urgent or final notice? For many seniors, especially those living on a fixed income, that moment happens all too often. Bills come in, the numbers look frightening, and the language feels intimidating. You start to worry, what if I don't pay this? What if they come after me? What if I lose something I've worked my whole life for? It's scary and it's exhausting, but here's something most people don't know, and this might shock you. Not every bill that lands in your mailbox is actually yours to pay. Yes, you heard that right. Some of these bills by law do not belong to you. And no matter how urgent the letters look, no matter how pushy the phone calls sound, you are not legally required to pay them. The sad truth is, many companies and collection agencies know this. They count on confusion, fear, and guilt to pressure seniors into paying money that should have stayed safely in their pockets. And every year, older adults lose millions of dollars to debts that were never really theirs to begin with. But here's the good news. Knowledge is power. When you know which bills you can legally ignore, you instantly take back control. Instead of living in fear, you start living with confidence. Instead of worrying that every letter is a threat, you can sort through your mail with calm eyes, knowing exactly what matters and what doesn't. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 6 kinds of bills seniors should never pay. Some of them you may have seen before, and others might surprise you. But each one will open your eyes to protections you already have under the law. And I want you to stay with me until the very end, because I'm not just going to tell you which bills to avoid, I'm also going to give you the confidence to stand tall the next time someone tries to pressure you. You'll learn how to respond, what steps to take, and how to protect both your wallet and your peace of mind. Now, before we dive in, I have one quick request. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure to tap the little bell icon too. That way you won't miss future videos like this. Videos that can literally save you money, stress, and sleepless nights. All right? Let's get started with the very first bill you should never pay. Point number 1. Medical bills already. Covered by Medicare or insurance. Let me ask you this. Have you ever received a medical bill that just didn't seem right? Maybe you went to the hospital, had a test, or even just a simple checkup, and a few weeks later, there it was. A bill with a scary number printed in bold. Your heart starts racing. You think, didn't Medicare cover this? Why do I still owe money? If I don't pay, will they send me to collections? And out of fear, many seniors just write the check without asking any questions. But here's the truth. If Medicare or your supplemental insurance already paid for the service, you do not owe that bill, period. The problem is that hospitals, clinics, and billing companies often make mistakes. Sometimes they send duplicate statements. Sometimes they process things incorrectly. And sometimes the paperwork is just plain confusing. But none of that means you actually owe money. Let me share a real story. Walter, a 72-year-old veteran, had knee surgery that was already covered by Medicare. A few weeks later, he got a bill for almost $8,000. It said, "Immediate payment required." He nearly drained his savings to pay it because he didn't want the stress of collection calls. But his daughter encouraged him to call Medicare first. And guess what? The representative told him the bill had already been paid in full months earlier. Walter owed nothing. That one phone call saved him thousands of dollars and his peace of mind. Stories like Walter's happen every single day. And it's heartbreaking. Because every dollar that goes toward an unnecessary medical bill is a dollar that should have gone to medication, healthy food, housing, or even just a little enjoyment in life. Here's what you can do. Always check with Medicare or your insurance company first. Call them and ask, has this claim already been paid? Look for the Explanation of Benefits, EOB. This document usually arrives after your visit, and it tells you exactly what was covered. If it says paid in full, that's the final word. Don't be rushed by fear. Collection letters often use big red stamps or threatening words. But remember, mistakes in medical billing are extremely common. Take a breath, make the call, and verify before you pay. And let's not forget the emotional side of this. Seniors already feel anxious about medical paperwork. It can be confusing and overwhelming. Paying bills you don't actually owe only feeds that fear and shame. But once you realize you're legally protected against double billing, you gain something priceless: peace of mind. So the next time that hospital envelope arrives, remember Walter's story. You are not powerless. You are not alone. And you do not owe a dime on bills that Medicare or your insurance has already covered. If you've ever seen a confusing medical bill in your own life, drop a comment below with the number 1. I'd love to know how many of you have faced this situation. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now so you don't miss the rest of this important list. Point number 2. Old debts that are past the statute of limitations now. Let's talk about another kind of bill that trips up countless seniors, and this one is sneaky. Imagine this. You get a phone call or a letter about a credit card you had years ago. Maybe it was from the 1990s, or maybe even earlier. You don't even remember all the details, but the collector on the phone sounds convincing. They say you still owe money, and if you don't pay, things could get ugly. Your mind starts racing. You wonder, what if they sue me? What if this ruins my reputation? Should I just pay something to make it go away? And here's where so many people get trapped. The truth is, every state has what's called a statute of limitations on debt. This is basically an expiration date. It sets a time limit on how long a company can legally sue you for payment. Once that time limit is up, the debt may still exist on paper, but legally, you cannot be forced to pay it. For most states, that statute of limitations is anywhere from 3 years to 6 years for things like credit cards, though it varies. Some may be a little longer, some shorter. But the key point is this: if the debt is too old, collectors have no legal power to make you pay. Unfortunately, many seniors don't know this. And shady collection agencies take advantage of that. They'll send scary letters. They'll call at dinner time. They'll even threaten lawsuits that they legally can't file. Their whole strategy is simple: scare you into paying money you don't actually owe anymore. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 69, and for years he received letters about a credit card he closed more than 15 years earlier. The balance was small, but the threats were big. Out of fear, Harold mailed small checks every month, thinking he was doing the right thing. One day, a neighbor mentioned the statute of limitations and told him to check. Harold called a local legal aid office, and they confirmed the debt was way past the enforceable limit. He didn't owe a penny. Harold stopped paying immediately, and guess what? The calls eventually stopped too. For the first time in years, he felt free. Now, here's something important to know. If you do make a payment on an old debt, even just a few dollars, in some states it can restart the clock. That means the statute of limitations could begin all over again, giving collectors new power. That's why it's so important not to pay even a little bit until you know the law in your state. So here's what you should do if this happens to you. Don't panic when you see an old bill. Take a deep breath. Check your state's statute of limitations. You can usually find this online or by calling a consumer rights attorney or legal aid service. Ask collectors to provide proof. You have the right to request written verification of the debt. If they can't provide it, you're not obligated to pay. Never pay until you're 100% sure. Remember, even one small payment can reset the debt in some states. Now think about this for a moment. Every dollar you don't waste on expired debt is a dollar you keep for yourself, for your food, your medication, your rent, your independence. Stressing over old debt doesn't just harm your finances, it wears on your health too. And emotionally, this is big. Many seniors feel guilt when they hear from collectors. They think, maybe I should just pay to make it go away. But once you realize that the law is on your side, that guilt disappears. Instead of feeling weak, you feel strong. You can pick up the phone and calmly say, that debt is past the statute of limitations. I am not paying. And that confidence is worth as much as the money you save. So remember Harold's story. Knowledge really is power. If the debt is too old, it's legally uncollectible. Period. If you've ever had a call about an old debt, drop the number 2 in the comments below so I know this has happened to you. And if you haven't yet, Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you'll be notified when new videos like this come out. Point number 3. Debts owed only by a deceased spouse or family member. This one is tough because it mixes money with grief, and that's a cruel combination. Picture this. You've just lost your husband, wife, or maybe even a sibling. You're grieving, trying to handle funeral arrangements, paperwork, and 1,000 emotions. Then, out of nowhere, a bill arrives in the mail. Maybe it's a credit card balance, a car loan, or a hospital charge. The letter says payment is due, and the collector might even imply you are responsible. In the middle of your loss, you suddenly feel pressure. You think, I don't want trouble. Maybe I should just pay it even if it wasn't my debt. And sadly, this is exactly what many collectors count on. But here's the truth. In most cases, you are not personally responsible for your loved one's individual debts. If the debt was only in their name and not jointly signed by you, then the creditor cannot demand that you pay out of your pocket. So how does it work? When someone passes away, their estate, basically their belongings, money in the bank, or property, is used to pay off any debts. If the estate doesn't have enough money, those debts usually remain unpaid. They don't automatically fall on the spouse, the children, or anyone else. But collectors don't always explain this. Instead, they call and say things like, "You're the next of kin, so you're responsible." That's not true. Or they'll use guilt. Don't you want to honor your spouse by paying what they owed? That's emotional manipulation. Let me share Margaret's story. She was 74 when her husband passed away. Not long after the funeral, she began receiving phone calls about his credit card balance, nearly $8,000. The caller insisted Margaret had to pay. She was heartbroken, scared, and almost ready to drain her savings. But then her daughter stepped in and spoke to a lawyer. The lawyer explained that the debt was in her husband's name only. Margaret was not responsible. The calls stopped after they sent a letter, and Margaret was able to keep her savings intact. Now, there are exceptions. If you were a co-signer on a loan, a joint account holder on a credit card, or you live in a state with community property laws, you may share responsibility. But outside of those situations, you cannot be forced to pay debts that weren't yours. So here are some steps to remember. Don't agree to pay immediately. Take time to check the facts. Ask for proof. Collectors must provide written verification of the debt and explain why they think you owe it. Know your state's laws. Community property states, like California, Texas, Arizona, and a few others, have special rules. So check before making decisions. Seek help. If you feel pressured, talk to a local consumer attorney or legal aid service. Many will answer basic questions for free. Now let's talk about the emotional side. Losing someone you love is already heavy. The last thing you need is guilt or fear piled on top of grief. When you realize the law protects you in most cases, it lifts a huge weight. You can focus on healing, on remembering your loved one, instead of worrying about bills that were never yours to begin with. And here's something important. If you know a friend who recently lost a spouse or parent, share this knowledge with them. Because too many seniors write checks out of fear, when in reality, they don't owe a single penny. So remember this rule. Your loved one's debts are not automatically your debts. Don't let anyone pressure you into paying what isn't legally yours. If this information surprised you, drop the number 3 in the comments. And if you've ever had a collector bother you after a family loss, share your story below. It could help someone else who's going through the same thing. Point number 4. Unauthorized charges and billing errors now. Let's talk about something that can sneak up on anyone. Unauthorized charges and plain old billing mistakes. You know that sinking feeling when you open a bill and something just doesn't look right? Maybe it's a charge you don't recognize, a service you never received, or a payment that looks way too high. Your first thought might be, maybe I just forgot. Maybe it's my fault. But here's the truth. Billing errors happen all the time. And sometimes companies or even dishonest people slip in charges hoping you won't notice. Seniors are especially targeted because scammers assume older adults won't double-check every bill. But you can prove them wrong. Let me give you an example. Gloria, a 72-year-old retiree, noticed her phone bill had an extra $39.99 every month for a premium service she never signed up for. She thought it was just part of her plan and paid it for nearly a year. One day, her grandson looked at the bill and said, "Grandma, what is this?" They called the phone company, and guess what? It was a mistake. Or maybe even a sneaky add-on. Gloria was refunded several months' worth of charges. That's money she never should have lost in the first place. And this doesn't just happen with phone companies. It happens with credit cards, utilities, medical bills, even online purchases. Sometimes it's human error. Other times it's fraud. Either way, you should never pay for something you didn't authorize. Here's what you can do. Always read your statements. Don't just look at the total. Scan through each charge. Even small amounts like $5 or $10 can add up if they're happening every month. Question anything suspicious. If you don't recognize a charge, call the company right away. Say, "I need an explanation of this line item." Don't be afraid to sound firm. Dispute unauthorized charges. With credit cards, you usually have 60 days from the statement date to dispute a charge under federal law. Many banks make the process easy. You can even do it online. Keep records. If you speak with a customer service rep, write down their name, the date, and what they promised. That way, if the problem doesn't get fixed, you have proof. Never assume it's your fault. Companies make mistakes. Systems glitch. And yes, fraudsters try to sneak things through. Catching it early can save you hundreds, even thousands. Let's go back to the emotional side for a second. A lot of seniors feel embarrassed when they realize they've been overpaying. They think, "I should have caught this sooner. I must not be paying enough attention." But here's the truth. Scammers and companies count on you feeling that way. They want you to stay quiet. The moment you speak up, you take your power back. And here's the best part. When you do catch an error and get it fixed, it feels amazing. You're not just saving money, you're proving to yourself that you're in control. That confidence is priceless. So the next time a bill arrives, don't just glance at it and toss it aside. Treat it like a puzzle. Look closely. Ask questions. Because the money you save could be the difference between stress and peace of mind. If you've ever found a mistake on a bill, drop the number 4 in the comments. And if you haven't yet, promise yourself you'll check your next bill carefully. Who knows what you might uncover? Point number 5, debts discharged in bankruptcy. This next one is about a word that can feel scary, bankruptcy. For many people, just hearing it brings up shame or fear. But here's the reality. Bankruptcy is not the end of the world. In fact, it's often a legal fresh start, especially for people buried under debt. Now here's the key. If you filed for bankruptcy and certain debts were discharged, you are no longer legally responsible for them. That means collectors cannot come back years later and try to squeeze money out of you. Once a debt is discharged, it's gone. Period. But sadly, some collectors either don't know the law, or worse, they do know and try to trick you anyway. They'll send letters, make calls, and say things like, "Even though you filed bankruptcy, you still owe this balance." That's false. Let's talk about Walter. He's 68, and about 10 years ago, he filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy after a business failure. All of his old credit card debts were wiped clean. Life went on. But recently, a collector started calling him about one of those old credit cards. Walter panicked at first. He thought, "Did I do something wrong? Do I still owe this?" After talking with a legal aid office, he learned the truth. The debt had been discharged years ago. The collector had no right to contact him. Walter sent them a copy of his bankruptcy discharge papers, and the calls stopped cold. Here's what you need to know. Keep your discharge papers. If you've ever filed bankruptcy, hold on to that paperwork like gold. It's proof that the debt is gone. Know which debts were wiped out. Most unsecured debts, like credit cards and medical bills, are usually discharged. But some debts, like student loans, child support, or recent taxes, may not be. If a collector contacts you about a discharged debt, don't panic. Tell them clearly, "This debt was discharged in bankruptcy." You may not legally collect it. Put it in writing. Send them a letter with a copy of your discharge papers. Once you do that, by law, they must stop contacting you. If they continue harassing you, take action. Report them to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, or talk to an attorney. In some cases, you could even sue for damages. Now let's talk about the emotional side. Bankruptcy often leaves people feeling ashamed, like they've failed. But the truth is, millions of Americans, including many seniors, have gone through it. It doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It means you made a choice to protect your health, your home, and your peace of mind. And once those debts are discharged, you deserve to move forward without fear. You don't have to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, waiting for the phone to ring. Bankruptcy is meant to give you a fresh start. Don't let shady collectors steal that away from you. So remember this rule. If a debt was discharged in bankruptcy, you don't owe it anymore. No matter how convincing a collector sounds, they can't rewrite the law. If this point gave you peace of mind, drop the number 5 in the comments. And if you've ever been contacted about a debt you knew was gone, share your story. It could save someone else a lot of stress. Point number 6, debts of adult children now. This one is very close to the heart because it's not about you directly. It's about your children. Many parents, especially as they get older, feel a strong sense of responsibility for their kids, no matter how grown up they are. If your son or daughter is struggling, it's natural to want to help. But here's the truth. You are not legally responsible for your adult children's debts. That means if your grown child racks up credit card bills, medical expenses, or even personal loans, collectors cannot come knocking on your door expecting you to pay. But here's where it gets tricky. A lot of collectors know parents want to protect their kids, so they use guilt. They'll say things like, "Don't you want to help your daughter? She owes this much. And if you don't pay, her life could be ruined." It's emotional manipulation. Plain and simple. Let me share Linda's story. She's 71, and one day she got a call from a collection agency about her son's unpaid car loan. They told her if she didn't step in, her son's credit would be destroyed. Linda panicked. She pulled money out of her savings and mailed it in. Later, she learned she was never legally required to pay that debt. The collectors had preyed on her love as a mother. That money could have stayed in her pocket, for groceries, for medicine, for her own peace of mind. Here's the bottom line. Unless you co-signed for your child's loan or account, you are not responsible. The debt belongs to them, not you. Here are some steps to protect yourself. If a collector calls about your child's debt, ask for proof. Tell them, "Show me in writing where I agreed to be responsible." If they can't, the debt is not yours. Don't let guilt push you into paying. Remember, every dollar you give away is money you may need for your own care and independence. Support your kids in other ways. Encourage them to talk to a credit counselor, set up payment plans, or learn better financial habits. But don't sacrifice your own security. If you co-signed, know your rights. Co-signing does make you legally responsible, so always think carefully before signing anything for a child, no matter how much you love them. And here's the emotional side. Many seniors drain their retirement savings trying to rescue adult children. But the truth is, your kids are adults now. They must learn to manage their own responsibilities. You've already raised them, taught them, and given them years of love and sacrifice. You don't have to keep sacrificing your financial security for their mistakes. So the golden rule here is simple. Your adult children's debts are theirs, not yours. Don't let guilt trips or manipulative collectors convince you otherwise. If this opened your eyes, drop the number 6 in the comments. And if you've ever been pressured to pay for a child's debt, share your story. You might save another parent from the same mistake. Final thoughts. Protecting your wallet and your peace. We've just walked through 6 types of bills that seniors should never pay because the law says you don't have to. Let's quickly recap. Medical bills already covered by Medicare or insurance old. Debts past the statute of limitations. Debts belonging only to a deceased spouse or family member. Unauthorized. Charges and billing errors. Debts already discharged through bankruptcy. Debts that belong to your adult children. Now, here's the truth. Not every piece of paper that shows up in your mailbox is something you legally owe, but many seniors don't realize this. Instead, they pay out of fear, guilt, or confusion. And that money could have gone to food, medicine, housing, or simply enjoying life. By knowing your rights, you turn the tables. You go from being a target to being someone who cannot be fooled. You start to open your mail with confidence instead of anxiety. You pick up the phone without fear. You realize that you are in control, not the collectors. Here's something important to remember. Protecting your money is not selfish. It's survival. Every dollar you keep is a dollar that supports your health, your dignity, and your independence. You've worked too hard your whole life to let manipulative letters or calls strip that away. So next time you get a bill, pause. Ask yourself, is this already covered by Medicare or insurance? Is this debt too old to collect? Did it belong only to my spouse or family member? Is this an error or unauthorized charge? Was it already erased in bankruptcy? Or does it belong to someone else, like my adult children? If the answer is yes to any of those, you have the legal right to say, no, I don't owe this. And that, my friends, is true financial freedom. Before we go, I want to encourage you, don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this video with friends, neighbors, or family members who might be paying bills they don't really owe. You never know whose life you might change just by passing along this information. And of course, if you found value here, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that little bell so you never miss important updates that protect your wallet and your peace of mind. Finally, let me ask you one last question. Which one of these 6 bills surprised you the most? Was it the medical bills, the old debts, or maybe the ones tied to a deceased spouse? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, your money belongs with you, not with collectors. Stay strong, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.